Okay, so getting back into our coverage over the Heroes Reborn reality, almost to the X-Men right there, we do pick up with some more Iron Man comics. Now, here's the thing, because in the opening pages for Iron Man issue number 7, we really do pick up with Madam Hydra. Now remember, Madam Hydra is of course the person in charge of, well, Hydra, but it's also her meeting up with the Mandarin. Now, here's the thing, because the Mandarin did tell Madam Hydra that he wanted Tony Stark. But here's the big catch though. He told her, do not kill him. I have some business be done with Tony Stark, so bring him over to me alive. The problem was that she didn't follow directions very well. She sent an assassin after Tony Stark, better known as Whirlwind. Now, Whirlwind was killed off by Tony, technically on accident, but like it was a two-part storyline where Tony did kill off two different villains in a very short period of time. But either way, for the Mandarin, he's all like, listen, I'm gonna give you and your empire, of course he's talking about Hydra, another chance to bring me Tony Stark like I asked you to. But here comes the big problem though. You see, for Madam Hydra, she kind of realized the Mandarin tried to hide his true form. And the reason why, because in the entire time they had their conversation, it was the Mandarin just playing mind games on her. But also, every single time she meets up with him, he's always appearing in a different form. So she has no idea what the Mandarin truly looks like. And so now we do switch over to Iron Man. Now let's not forget, this storyline does take place right after the whole Industrial Revolution storyline. And so because of that storyline right there, you had the Avengers decide to no longer work for S.H.I.E.L.D., but to also not be stationed at Avengers Island. So now the team has officially moved over to Avengers Mansion. And of course, for Tony Stark, he's the man who's kind of spending all the money the Avengers need to be a functionable team. Now, we do see Iron Man trying his best to show Thor around the new headquarters, but the problem is for Thor, he doesn't care at all. Like, for example, you have Iron Man say, like, here, Thor, look at our great armory. But for Thor, it's all like, a great warrior will always have his weapon next to him the entire time. So why in the world would I place my hammer inside this place right here? I'm a great warrior. My hammer should be with me at all times. Now you have Thor also realize that there's something else going on with Iron Man, and he wants to help Iron Man, but you have Tony tell him like, listen, not even a god can truly help me out when it comes to my personal problems. Now you do have Pepper appear, and she does tell Tony like, hey, we gotta leave because we gotta meet up with Happy Hogan. But now we have to switch over to Jasper Sitwell. Now for Jasper Sitwell, he was Tony's liaison because he works for the government. Now for Jasper, he got word that Bruce Banner is the Hulk. And so of course right now, it's Jasper at the moment trying to find the Hulk, trying to find Bruce. Now, he also know Bruce did call up Doc Samson. So Doc Samson might have an idea of where in the world Bruce could be yet. The thing is, the Doc is not trying to tell Jasper where Bruce is at because technically Bruce Banner is his patient. He has the right to protect his patient. But for Jasper, he does not care about protocols or even laws. And so you have Jasper pull out this syringe that's full of gamma radiation. And of course, he injects it into Doc Samson, believing it will make him talk about where Bruce could possibly be at. And so this leads us back over to Tony Stark, who's meeting up with Happy Hogan. Now, when he does, you have Hogan tell Tony like, okay, so boss, here's the 411. Like, technically, everyone loves the idea of the Avengers. Everyone loves the idea that, you know, the Avengers are here to protect the city. What they don't like right now is still you. Because remember, we learned early on that after Tony Stark's best friend had officially died, he kind of got emotionless, heartless. And so he was doing a lot of things behind the scenes that were kind of heartless, but also kind of allowing different people to run his company. And so unfortunately, there was some bad moves made towards the working class of the public. And so for the working class right now, they don't like Tony for so many different reasons. And so for Happy Hogan, he's informing Tony like, hey, listen, you still have this one particular group of people right now very upset with you. And so for Tony, he wants the chance to meet with those people. So you do have Tony leave the office. Now, right after he does leave, we do learn here that Pepper and also Happy Hogan are technically a couple, so you do see the two characters making out in Tony's office. But this kind of leads into a situation because right after you had Tony leave the office, you have Happy Hogan see somebody coming. And the top floor of Tony's building is completely wiped out, killing off Happy Hogan, and Pepper barely survives. But the entire floor is almost wiped out completely. So you do have Tony see what happened on the ground level, changes into his Iron Man outfit, go up there to figure out what's exactly going on, and you have Iron Man, well, be confronted by another Iron Man person in a different armor suit. Now, we do learn very quickly here that the other Iron Man is actually an old friend of Tony Stark, is Rebel O'Reilly. Now remember, in our first video for Iron Man, the Heroes Reborn reality, we had talked about the idea that Rebel died. You see, when it came to Rebel, he was testing out the Prometheus armor suit, the original Iron Man suit, but it blew up on him. So we were kind of left to believe he died back then, but somehow he's alive again, but in a different iron suit. So the question is right now, how is he alive? But also, who gave him this other Iron Man suit? And so you do have our two characters fight against one another. Now for Tony Stark, at first, he does somewhat struggle, but you didn't have Tony begin to rebound in the actual battle to give himself a chance here. But you do have some other pieces being moved around when it comes to this particular storyline. But now we have to jump over to Liz Ross because remember, Liz works for Tony. She's head of security. And so when it comes to Liz, it's her right now being told by Tony like, hey, go to top level, grab Pepper, get her the heck out of there and get her somewhere protected. But also grab the dead body of Happy Hogan. Now, when Liz arrived with her team, Pepper does not want to leave the dead body of the man she loves behind. But you didn't have Liz go out of her way to slap Pepper. She's like, you know what? You're kind of going crazy and wild. I'm hoping this slap will bring you back into reality to help you realize we gotta get the heck out of there. But you didn't have Pepper slap Liz right back. Except when she does, we see that something's going on with the head of Liz Ross. And we're kind of like, wait, what in the world is currently going on with her? But unfortunately, we have to switch over to Jennifer Walters. And here's the reason why, because as she's right now leaving the courthouse and gets into a taxi, you have the Hulk grab Jennifer and bring her straight down into the sewers. And this is the Hulk asking Jennifer to help him out. And so, of course, you get the idea that Bruce is technically still on the run. Now we do jump back over to Doc Samson, who we believe right now is currently dead. That thanks to Jasper injecting gamma radiation into Doc Samson's body, that he's officially dead. But in reality, Doc Samson's not dead. Matter of fact, he wakes up. We hear a loud scream and a lot of shooting, but we're left to wonder what exactly happened. But getting back over to the battle between Tony and also Rebel, as the battle goes on, you have Tony realize there's something off about Rebel. Now, technically, yes, Tony's right, because Rebel should be dead right now. We watched the man get blown up in the first chapter or the first story arc of this series. But it's Tony saying like, wait, you thought Happy Hogan was me earlier. But here's the thing, you were completely wrong when you blew off the top part of my building. But the thing is, your suit should have told you who it was that you were currently targeting, which means that there's something going on with you. And so you didn't have Tony being able to bring down Rebel, pull off his face mask to reveal like, yes, Rebel is alive, but he's more machine than man. That apparently all these different machine parts have now been plugged into his dead body. The question is right now, who in the world did this to Rebel? Who brought this man back to life? And so, as we dive into the next chapter, we do see Tony Stark take Rebel over to Mr. Fantastic because back in college, it wasn't just Iron Man and Rebel who were best friends. You had Victor, Hank Pym, Reed Richards, and you also had Bruce Banner. They were all friends back in college. Now, for Reed Richards, he definitely knows that Tony Stark is Iron Man, but you have Tony Stark playing with the idea of like, oh, hey, Iron Man is my bodyguard. There's no way I'm Iron Man. But of course, Reed knows that Tony Stark is Iron Man. Now, for Tony, what he wants to do is tap into, well, technically the machine version of Rebel here. Now you have Reed say like, if you do that, you are technically connecting both you guys' life support. If his life support dies, so will yours as well. Meaning that if he dies, Tony, you will also die as well. But for Tony, he wants answers. And so this is him right now going into the memory bank of Rebel to kind of figure out how in the world he was brought back to life. And so once you do have Tony being able to connect his mind to Rebel's mind, it's really more of Tony Stark kind of learning here that even though Rebel and him were best friends in college, for Rebel, he kind of looked at Tony as competition because every single time they went out, the ladies or other people were more interested in Tony rather than Rebel because Tony had the money, Tony had the fame, Tony had the brilliance of being able to do all these different types of things. And so when it came to Rebel over time, he would kind of do things at extreme level to get the attention of other people, but to also make him look better than Tony Stark. And so while you have Tony still connected to the mind of Rebel, he goes into a flashback where you had Tony and Rebel agree to work together to create an armor suit, a combat armor suit to use out there in the field. Of course, this combat armor suit would technically be used to lead into the creation of the Prometheus suit we saw at the very beginning of the series, the first Iron Man armor. Now, while you have the two guys talking to one another, Victor, better known as Dr. Doom, walked over to our two characters and informed them that they're too late, that Russia had already created their own Iron Man person, better known as the Titanium Man. But while you have Tony inside the mind of Rebel, it's also Tony learning that Rebel lost his girlfriend because of Tony, but in a different way. Because again, for Rebel, the only reason why he went more extreme doing different things across the world was to get the attention of other people who were more interested in Tony rather than Rebel. And so because of that, his girlfriend said like, I need somebody who's not so extreme like you, somebody who's technically more calm, kind of like Tony was. And so even though when it came to Rebel, he changed his entire life to be more extreme, to be better than Tony, he began to lose different things because he's trying to beat Tony so badly. But now we kind of jump forward in time a tad bit here in the mind of Rebel to the night before he had officially died. You see, for Rebel, he took the suit out for his own little test drive, but he flew over to Russia. Why? Because again, Russia had already built their own Iron Man person, Titanium Man. Now, this was a prototype that Tony had built alongside with Rebel. This suit was not technically ready to go over to Russia to fight against all those different missiles, but also to fight against Titanium Man. And so for Rebel, he lost that battle very quickly. And matter of fact, you had Titanium Man tell Rebel this right here. Hey man, listen, I could kill you right now, but I don't want to do that. Instead, I want you to go back over to America to show them their product is not ready. And matter of fact, their product should most likely be shelled and never used ever again, because your whole Iron Man suit is nothing compared to my suit. And this all leads into the death of Rebel, because while he was out there fighting against Titanium Man, it did some serious damage to the suit. And so the following day, when it came time for Rebel to test out the suit in front of Tony and his company people, of course the suit began to malfunction because it was not fully ready, because it got badly damaged thanks to Titanium Man. And so just like that, for, Rebel, he died like he did in the first issue of this series. Now, you then had a flashback kind of fast forward to the point where he was dug up. Now, we already know who it is. It's Madam Hydra. But for Tony, he has not met Madam Hydra yet. He has not even seen Hydra yet. So he had no idea who he was looking at. But we do, because we saw Madam Hydra throughout the entire series. Now, you do have Tony be brought back into the present day out of the mind of Rebel. And you have Reed saying, like, it was probably best to save your life to go ahead and pull you out now. Now, for Rebel, he's going to die very soon. But he said, before I do die, allow me one thing. Allow me to do one thing. To go off like a hero. And this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.